Find the unit rate. To find the unit rate, you're going to divide a y value by an x value. You'll want to check multiple sets from the table to make sure that it stays consistent. Here, if we did 16.2 divided by 6, that would give us 2.7 for our unit rate. You're going to complete number 1 through number 4 for your warm-up. There are two types of interest, simple interest and compound interest. This year we are only going to study one of these types of interest, which is the simple interest, because the graph representing simple interest looks like the graph of a proportional relationship, which we studied earlier this year in other modules. Remember, a proportional relationship is a straight line that goes through the origin. You'll study compound interest later on. Liam deposits $1,200 into a bank account that earns an annual simple interest rate of 2%. Complete the table. So if we earned 2% on a $1,200 account balance, we can cross multiply and divide. And that gives us 24. So in 1 year, they're going to earn $24. The next year, they will have earned another $24, which will be 48. And then another 24, which brings us to a total 72. And another 24 for the next year, which will bring us to a total of $96 over 4 years. We are going to use a formula for simple interest. And it says, let I represent the total simple interest earned in dollars, and T represent the time in years. So time in years, interest earned. This amount is what we started with. And this 0.02 is 2%, written in its decimal form. So the formula that we use is I equals PRT. P stands for the principal, how much you start with. R is the rate, which is the percent, written in its decimal form. And T is the time. So Mr. White takes out a $752 loan to buy a stereo system. The bank charges an annual simple interest rate of 12%. How much will Mr. White pay in interest if he pays off the loan in 2 years? So interest is the principal times the rate times the time. So the principal, identify the principal amount. The principal is what we started with in our account or in our loan, which was $752. The interest rate, the rate is 12%, but 12% written as a decimal is 0.12. And the time it takes is going to be 2 years. Use the simple interest formula to write and solve an equation. I equals the principal times the rate times the time. So 752 times 0.12 times 2 is $180.48. For problems 3 through 6, use the simple interest formula to write and solve an equation. Mrs. Kondo takes out a $10,500 loan to buy a used car. That's the principal. The bank charges an annual simple interest rate of 5%. 5% as a decimal is 0.05. How much will Mrs. Kondo pay in interest if she pays off the loan in 5 years? It's really important to pay attention to the time and how the interest is used. So annual means yearly. So then we know that annual and years, those units match up. So then we have 10,500 times 0.05 times 5, which is 2,625. So she's going to pay $2,000 or $2,625 in interest. Nawar deposits $820 into a bank account with an annual simple interest rate of 2.5%. That would be 0.025. If you're having a hard time changing the percent to a decimal, you can just divide it by 100. And that is annual, and then our time is 3 years. So 820 times 0.025 times 3 is $61.50 in interest. Sarah deposits $1,125 into a bank account with the simple interest rate of this. To turn it into the decimal, we can divide it by 100. And that moves the decimal 2 spots. This is annual, and it says how much will she earn in 2.5 years. Principal, rate, time. 1,125 times 0.0065 times 2.5 . Remember, money, we keep 2 decimal spots, and the 1 is below a 5, so it stays 1828. Jonas deposits a principal of $225 with an annual rate of 1.1, so that is 0.11 in decimal form, and the time is 1 year and 9 months. That's 1 year and 9 out of 12 months in the year. You can change 9/12 to a decimal. 9 divided by 12 is 0.75, so we can rewrite this as 1.75. Then we'll multiply. That comes out to 4.33125. Remember, money, we keep 2 decimal spots, and the 1, since it's below a 5, leaves it the same. So $4.33. Lily plans to invest $1,500 in a certificate of deposit, which also is known as a CD. She has 3 options to consider. Plan A, an 11-month CD earns an annual simple interest of 2%. A 1-year CD earns an annual simple interest rate of 1.5%. And a 2-year CD earns a simple interest rate of 1.75%. Which plan do you think Lily should choose and why? Well, the 11-month CD has the highest interest rate, so that would mean she would earn the most in that amount of time. But you might also consider that the longer you leave your investment, the more money you earn. Now, a high interest rate on a loan is a bad thing, because that means you owe the other people more money. But a high interest rate on a savings account or a certificate of deposit is a good thing because the bank is paying you the money. B. Calculate the amount of interest Lily would earn with each plan and compare the results to determine which plan would earn her the most interest. So in plan A, we have the $1,500. The rate is 2%, and the time would be 11 months. It's an annual rate, so we would need 11/12. For plan B, it's still the principal of $1,500. The rate is 1.5%, and the time is 1 year. In plan C, the principal is the same. The rate is 1.75%, and the time is 2 years. So 1,500 times 0.02 times 11/12 is 27.5. So $27.50 using plan A. Plan B, 1,500 times 0.015 times 1 is $22.50. And using plan C, 0.0175 times 2 gives us $52.50. So the one that earns her the most interest would be plan C. Which plan should Lily choose to invest her money in? Why? You might still think that plan A is better because she would earn more money in a shorter amount of time than if she left it in the plan C for the same amount of time. But you might choose plan C because it has the most interest. I would stick with plan A. And if I did stick with plan A, let's see if I replace this with 2 years. 1,500 times 0.02 times 2 would give me $60. So if I left it in this account for 2 years versus in plan C for 2 years, I would still earn more money with plan A. That is the end of lesson 17. Feel free to check back in the playlist for more lessons from Module 5.